G'day. I just had to put this little blurb in before my next video because this next video, you're gonna laugh when you see it, and I'm laughing now. But let me tell you, half an hour ago I wasn't laughing. I have a simple job. You'll see it coming up. I do a little intro, show you a little bit around what's going on here, and I get into a Martin guitar. And it's a simple job. One string was a little low. It was the high E string. And basically all you got to do, knock that nut off, put a little baking soda and some crazy glue into that slot, let it turn solid, file it down a little bit, put that nut back on, string up the guitar, and you're done. So anyway, wait till you see what goes on with this guitar, because it goes one thing after another, and let me tell you, my experience with guitars, if something's gonna go wrong, it always will. That's Murphy's Law, I think. I think his name was Murphy that come up with that. But anyways, you take a look at this video, and especially when I get working on this Martin guitar. And you know what? I have a Martin myself. I'm not knocking Martin. One of the best acoustic guitars out there. They're a great playing instrument. I actually have one exactly the same as you're going to see the one I'm working on, and it's my main guitar when I'm playing out in the band. If I'm using acoustic, it's my go-to guitar, and I'm going to tell you why. Because the sound of it is just excellent. So I will tell you that of all the guitars that I play in my life, and I played them all, Martin is one of my #1 choices when I'm going to be playing. So anyway, but I could have swore at this Martin guitar today, so you stay tuned. You're going to watch this and see what I'm talking about. Going to be a lot of fun. Bye-bye now. Well, good morning. It's January the 18th. It's not that cold out this morning. It's snowing like a son of a gun out there, and I guess we're going to get a big dump of snow. Just going to share with you a few little things around the shop here that, when you do the kind of work that I do, especially on guitars and amps, you're forever juggling projects. I have a project that I just put in the other room there, hung it on the wall. I have a room that's humidified where I keep all my guitars and all my client guitars while I'm not working on them, because although the environmental conditions in this shop here are pretty good, it's not kept to the standards that I have in my studio, where I keep humidity basically sitting around 50–55% and the temperature around 72 to 73 degrees. So just a little note on that one. But interestingly enough, I put one guitar in there. It's on the shelf waiting for a part to come in, and lo and behold, I got a couple more here on the go, and I'll just kind of share with you a few of the things that you can run into when you're working on guitars and amps, and especially with the amps. When you look at the vintage ones, especially if it's not a major make like a Fender or a Marshall. So anyway, I'm going to stop this video, and I'm just going to flip it around, and I'm going to show you kind of the stuff that you may get into here. Kind of an interesting morning, and something a little different than I normally do. So stay tuned. I'm going to stop it right now. Well, a couple of nights ago, I had a client from out of town had to drive into my town here to drop this off to me, and I've heard of these before, but this is actually my first time getting into looking at one of these guys. It's a Jens Benz amplifier. These guys probably in the early 2000s, when these were kind of in the sales stores. They are no longer. These these amps were actually, I believe, discontinued probably in the mid to, I don't know, 2005, 2007. Fender basically bought out this company and dropped some of the lines that this company had. And this guy here is a Jens Benz 3060 tube. 3060 meaning 30 watts and 60 watts, and it's got a switch on the back to let you flip back and forth between the two. Lots of settings on it. You can see some of the stuff that we got here. Holy cow! It's like a jet plane cockpit with all the controls on it. But to make a long story short, this fellow, I'm not sure where he picked it up from. Probably got it, I don't know, either bought it online or bought it at a pawn shop. It plays good, and it's in good condition. But basically, there's a foot switch that comes with this guy that was not with the unit. And the other issue that I got into it, he said to me, well, there's no reverb. So anyways, you know, the old story. Let's open up the back and find out what's going on here. And anyways, I opened it up, and sure enough, it's got a Accutronics reverb tank in it. And the same old deal, I pull off the RCA connectors and go to meter the little thermocouple on these on the end of here, and I've got one open, totally open. So the reverb tank is shot. At least the thermo couple on there, whatever it's called here, this little guy at the end here. I don't know what you really call these guys. What they basically are, they're a little coil, and they're just like a guitar pickup coil, but they work backwards. The signal comes in, electric signal hits the magnet and makes the springs vibrate and give you the reverb effect. This one is a 16 3/4 inch length reverb tank, and it's the 3-spring version, which I believe is type 9, if I'm not mistaken, 8 or 9. So anyways, the old story goes, you know, let's turn it over here. Let's see if I get it the right way around here, and let's look at the number on it. So we got a 9, get that out of the way, a 9F B2C1, and that's a D, not a 0. Okay? So I go all over, I mean literally all over Google, all over the world, trying to find out where to get this. You have to be careful because, of course, the impedance values on these coils, you know, they're different based on this number here. So you have to be careful when you're putting in a reverb tank. You have to make sure you get a reverb tank that's compatible, that's going to match this amp. And if you don't, you're going to have problems. The reverb's going to sound bad, or it won't work at all. Or what's going to happen is if you got the wrong impedance here, there's a chance you could put a tank in here and blow that coil, just because it's the wrong tank. So these are the kind of little things. So anyways, make a long story short, I can't apparently get this tank anymore because it sounds like it's been discontinued. So here we got this amp that I told the client, I says, I think you got an orphaned amplifier here, because after 2 days of searching all through the States, different stores, all over Google, I cannot get that tank. It just can't. The foot switch, I found one foot switch for this amp down in California. I believe it was $129. And of course, on top of that $129, you've got the exchange on the dollar, you've got shipping, you've got the Canadian import excise tax, and then they bring it into Canada, you get dinged with a 13% sales tax on top of it. To make a long story short, to get a foot switch into Canada that's going to work on this amp, we're talking over $200. After I add all that loaded stuff on, the shipping and all the rest of it on top of the cost of the foot pedal. So anyways, this is just a little word of wisdom here on people that are looking at buying amps. When you walk into a shop or you see something online at a really good price, be careful, because here we got this amplifier. And to tell you the truth, if I could get the parts on it, there'd be no problem fixing it. But if I can't get the parts, I'm basically out of luck. So anyway, just a word of wisdom on that. Now I have another project over here, back here, and I'm going to show you this. I have a Martin X-Brace Martin here, acoustic, Dreadnought. And I know this guitar really well, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I've got exactly the same guitar in my shop, over in the studio there, that I play. So I know this guitar fairly well intimately because I play it. Anyways, a customer brings this guy in, and I'm saying, oh boy, the same guitar I got. I know this one pretty good. This guitar is fairly new. It's within a few months old, still under warranty and all the rest of it. But let me tell you what I run into. The customer says to me, I keep getting fret buzz on this guitar, and I've only played it for a little while. And you know, I go in here and I check, check what's going on here. And of course, the frets are in perfect condition. There's no, obviously hasn't been played hardly at all. There's no fret wear at all on any of the frets. It's an immaculate shape, no dings, no scratches. You know, all the frets are pretty good. Looking back here at the saddle, all in good shape. Go down to the side, nothing bowed up. Check the neck angle, no problem. Check the relief on it. The relief is, I believe, 11 1/1000ths of an inch, and you know, 10 1/1000ths, 12 1/1000ths is probably where you're going to want it to be. So upon investigation, let me show you what I found out here. If I look at this nut, and you look at the strings across that nut, this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one. Now you look at that E, the high E, and you're going to find that whoever cut this nut, for some reason, cut that high E low. In other words, right here, that string is a heck of a lot lower than all the rest. And I'll tell you how low it is. It's so low that when I go here and I touch that, there's virtually no distance at all. This string is almost sitting flat on that first fret. Here, all these, I've got the, you know, the correct distance. This one is a little high. These guys are all within limits. These are all sitting at about 8 1/1000ths of an inch. For some reason, this guy jumped up to about 12 1/1000ths of an inch. And for some reason, this guy is sitting right on the fret. I kid you not, sitting right on the fret. So the reason I bring this up on this video is that I bought an X-Brace about 2 months ago, which I mentioned earlier, that's my own that I play. And that guitar I bought off a fellow here locally in my town. He hardly played it at all. He had it for, I believe it was still you know, less than a year old. I think he only played it maybe half a dozen times. I picked it up for a good price, and you know what? I found that my guitar had that high E string cut low as well. And I had exactly the same problem on the guitar that I have in my studio as this one sitting right here on my workbench, with fret buzz on the high E string. And I mean, looking at that nut, you can very easily see that it's cut too low. Now, I just got finished doing a video for a Martin Jr. that a fellow from out of town brought in, and I replaced 5 or 6 frets on it, did a full fret job, re-leveled them all, crowned them all, polished them all. And the funny thing is, when I finished that one, I had exactly the same problem on that Martin Jr. as I see on this one. When that nut was cut, you know, I was saying, well, maybe because the frets were worn down, that somehow that wore that groove down. But now I've got 3 guitars in about a week and a half in my shop, all Martins, every one of them with that high E string with the nut cut too low. All of them sitting right on the first fret. So I'm not sure what exactly is going on with these Martins, but I don't know. Just heads up, 3 of them in a week and a half, all with exactly the same problem. So this guy here, I'm going to be pulling the strings off of. I'm going to be knocking that nut out. And what I'm going to try to do, I'm going to try to use the baking soda and the crazy glue trick and see if I can fill that in and refile that to get that high E string up a little higher. Because I say all the rest of them are good except for this second string here that I'm going to basically just drop a little wee bit just to get it the same as all the rest. But this guy, she got to come up because you'll never get rid of the buzz on that string until that nut's fixed. So that's kind of a little bit what's going on in my shop these days. Anyway, we're going to continue on with this video, and I'm going to show you the repair work to get that nut fixed. So if you're interested in that part of this video, stay tuned. Well, we're going to continue, and hopefully you can see this video and the headstock of this guitar okay. So like I say, the first effort we're going to do is we're going to back these strings off. That's the first thing we're going to do. Get them out of the way. As we're going to take this nut out of here. Let me get these saws out of the way here. Might use them later. But let's get this off first. I think the fairly heavy strings on this guy. I'm not sure what they are. I got 12s on mine. This look a little heavier. This look like maybe looks like 13s, but I'm not 100% sure. Anyway, we take them off. Actually, I don't have to take the strings right off. All I really got to do is loosen them up enough and drop them off to the side here to work on this guy. So that's all we're doing is just loosening them up. See what we can work out on this. This shouldn't be too big a fix on this guy, I don't think. Hopefully not. So hopefully that's enough now. Get the strings out of the way. So I have my own little block of wood here. It's got a little arrow on the end. This has got a little bit of an angle on it, as you can see. And basically the goal here, you just sit that on the nut and give a little tap with my fret hammer here and see if we can get that nut to come out. And it looks like it's just that one little hit. And let's see if she's going to come out. No, maybe not. Let's just try it again here. She's out now, but she's tight. So can use these guys. Be careful we don't pinch too hard. Just going to get it down there, and we're just going to grab it very lightly and see if we can pull. Holy moly. That nut, she's in there. They really got that nut in there. Wow. Huh. She's loose, but wow. Holy moly. Oh. That's a tight fit, let me tell you. Holy cripe. She's in there like a, I don't know. She's definitely loose. But she don't want to pull out at all. Holy cow, I'm moving it. You can see if it moves back and forth, no problem. Ho, 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 ho. That nut is in there too tight. I can't get that nut to come out at all. So you start to see how a very easy job gets complicated with something as simple as a nut that you cannot get out of a notch. So boy, oh boy, oh boy. Well, I don't want to hit the end too hard because I'm right on the wood here. But she sure won't come out. It's loose. They move back and forth. She's right, move right out of the way there. But oh, well, what's next on the agenda here? How we get this nut out? How we get this nut out? Try to pound it out sideways, I guess. I need something small enough now to hit that side. I sure don't want to. It's right on the side of the fret and right on the neck here, so we want to make sure we don't damage the headstock on this guy. Holy cow. Let me go with a little smaller fret hammer and see if I can just tap this thing sideways. No, sir. She don't come out. Wow. I don't know. First time I see a nut like this. Well, I'm going to stop the video. I'm going to have to figure out some little tool or something I can put on the end of that friggin' nut to pound that nut out, because everything I got is too big, and I'm gonna hit that, and you guarantee I'm gonna hit the wood, I'm gonna damage the fretboard, I'm gonna damage the side of the headstock. So at this point, I got to figure out something to get that nut out, but she ain't moving not even nothing. It moved a little bit with a hammer. It's not glued, but they've got that nut in there. They must have pounded that in with a hammer to get that nut in there that tight. Anyway, I'm going to stop the video, look around the shop for something to take this nut out with. Hold on. Well, welcome back. I got the nut out, and I'll tell you what I ended up doing. I ended up putting the guitar, as you see it here, sideways and braced right at the where the nut is. Got a piece of hardwood with a little end on it, so that I could actually take that piece of hardwood and hit it right on the end of this nut. So I'm not going to be touching the headstock or the side of the fretboard. And what I ran into with this guy here, pounded out sideways, I could not pound that out with a fret hammer. I had to go and get a full-size hammer, and I had to pound, I'm not kidding you, to the point where I started to worry if I was going to break the headstock. I mean hard, to get this thing to move. So, you know, the whole story with this this whole nut thing, yeah, you want, you know, same with the saddle, you know, you want the thing in there snug so it's not flopping around, but I mean, you don't want a nut in this hard, in this tight. It's just, that's too tight, where, you know, you can't get the nut to even move or take it out. The other thing I noticed too, when I did get it out, I noticed that across the top here, on the where the nut was, right across the whole front of the wood here, they had glued it right across. The whole thing was glued. So as a result, I've got gobs of glue sitting, you know, all across the bottom edge of this this nut here, and I mean, it's all, you can feel all on level, eh? So when I'm fixing this nut and you know, fixing the high E, I get a little higher. I mean, I'm gonna, number one, I'm gonna sand all that glue off. I'm gonna have to clean all that glue out of here, and I'm gonna test the fitness of this, and whatever sanding's required to get this nut to slide in there in a reasonable tightness, snugness, that's what I'm going to do. but I'm certainly not going to leave the nut the way it is, where I have to use a full-size hammer to pound it in and out. That's just too tight. Other than that, I think that's the only thing we really have to worry about with this thing, is getting that back in there. And the other thing too, when I glue these in, I'm not sure what everybody else does, but in my case, what I do with a nut like that, I've seen other people glue across the front like this. I've seen that. I don't. I take the bottom of the nut, I put one drop, and I'm talking one drop of crazy glue there. I put one drop of crazy glue there, 2 drops. In goes the nut. Let it sit in it, and within 10 seconds, it's in there solid. So that's the way I put a nut in, and like I say, and that's the way this nut is going to be going back in after it's cleaned off. I'm certainly not going to cover the whole front of the nut with glue and glue it in the way this was put in. I mean, this is a good idea, I guess, if you never want to take the nut out and say, hey, let's put this thing in here like a piece of concrete so we can never remove it, then I guess okay. But for a guitar tech trying to work on a guitar and maintain it, changing a nut, this one was a pain in the butt. So anyway, we're going to do a little sanding now, and I'm going to put the video on hold, and you'll see that process. Probably going to go to the Skycam for the rest of this stuff. So anyway, I'm going to stop this video with my my middle finger, my big finger here. So hang on, stand by, we'll be right back. Well, after all that struggle and effort, what I ended up doing, by the way, the reason I took the nut off is that when I put a little baking soda down in here with a little drop of crazy glue, what that does, that solidifies and it turns rock hard, just like glass. So I don't like doing that with the nut on the guitar, because there's a chance that the crazy glue might run onto the fretboard, might run onto the headstock. So for me, when I do that kind of little adjustment there, I knock the nut off, and I do that with the nut sitting on a piece of paper on my desk, nowhere near the guitar. And then once I get that done, I put the nut into my little vise here, and I do some preliminary filing to make sure that everything looks fine. So make a long story short, what I've done is I've done that. I did file a little bit off the back end of this nut, so that now this nut, it's snug, but it's not like it was. I mean, I can now, if I was to knock this nut, with my fingers, with pressure, I could slide it out or take it off. But so that little change has been made as well. The other thing I did is I put just the 2 drops of crazy glue on the bottom when I put that nut back in, very quickly making sure it's level here, because that crazy glue sets up really fast. So when I look at it now, you can see from this point of view, good fit, no problem with the way that nut's in there. Strings are pulled out of the way. I use a little elastic band back here to hold them out of the way. You see what I've done is I just hook it on the tuning peg back here to hold these out of the way while I work on that nut, putting it in. So at this point, I'm ready to put the guitar flat and put the strings back on and see what happens. So stand by, be right back. Well, I moved up to the Skycam so you can see what's going on. So to make a long story short, I haven't strung this up to pitch yet, but I've strung it up and put some tension on here. And what I've got now is I've got the proper, well, I'm going to have to do a little filing on these 2 guys here, just a bit more. This one was high to start off with, as you can recall. This one with the baking soda and the crazy glue trick, I filed it down just a touch, but it's a little high now. So instead of being too low, it's now a little on the high side. But to make a long story short, right now, and I haven't done the neck, checked the neck relief either, but where this thing was buzzing really bad, no buzz at all now on that high E string. So a little bit extra work to get this angle right, and drop those a little bit, and I think we've got this this guy pretty well resolved. So with that said, let's take the tension off of this these two strings here. Just drop that off a little bit. The other thing too is, you notice I didn't point this out, but what I had done on these strings, I had taken a pencil and I had taken a little bit of you know, just a regular pencil, and laying around here somewhere, and I just shaved off and put a little bit of graphite in that in those two slots there, so that we would you know, it wouldn't bind. But to make a long story short, we're going to have to take a little bit off of here and a little bit off of there. And again, we've got to be very careful here. And again, you see what I'm doing is I'm trying to hit the break angle to that tuning peg here. That's the goal. So we're just going to take this off ever so slightly. And I can't stress this enough when you're working on dropping these strings on a nut. You be just a little bit at a time, whatever you do, because you can ruin the whole nut that way. And you almost got to bring it up to tension before you can really get some good tension on it, before you can actually test this thing. So I just took a little bit off. That's still a little high, not much, but, well, not much. I don't want to take much more, just a tad. So let's take the string off again. And by the way, make sure you use the right size of saw for this. As you can see, I have an assortment of saws that I use, so that I'm not making this this slot wider than what the string is, so that you don't get a you know, a flopping string in there. So we're just going to take a little bit more, just like that. Put her back in. Put the tension back on. See what it feels like. Getting very close now. Not much. Just a tad more. Still got to come down a bit more. So this is where your trial and error comes in when you're doing something like this, where you're going to be moving this string off and on, off and on, off and on as you drop this nut level. So let me just go up here. I want to make sure I'm using the right. Using a 20 here. That's a little too wide. There's what I want right there, this guy. Just a tad, eh? Clean it out. Put her up to pitch, or close to. We're getting real close. A bit more. Not much. Not much at all. See what we got this time here. Yeah, we're right on the money. Very, very close. Still a tad. A lot of times, you know, after you've done this, the number of times I have, you know, you're going to see when we put the capo on and actually check it, but you get to the point where just by the feel alone, you really get to that point after you've done a few of these where it becomes very simple for you to know when that string height is right. Obviously, when you first start out doing this stuff, you're not in that situation. There we go. Now that is really nice now. So when I touch that, it's just a really nice feel to it. And that's what I'm after. So let's go to this next one now, the one that I put the, I've added in the baking soda and the crazy glue. Get it up a bit. Yeah, it's definitely, it's a little bit, 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 it's a little b Has to come down a bit, not much. So we're going to drop her just a tad. So again, you can see the trial and error. Get the right size saw, and again, the break angle. Can't stress this enough. There's a break point right there, and on that nut, the point's right there, and you got a downward slope, and the downward slope should match where the string is hitting that peg. So when you put this saw in here and you're doing that, this is what you're aiming for, right there. Take a little bit out like that. Let's see what we got here. We're sitting there pretty good now. Boy, oh boy. Let's see. Yeah, we're sitting there really nice now. Now that we got it done to the feel, what we're actually going to do now is we're actually going to take the measurements on this thing and see exactly where we are according to spec-wise on this guy. So that's not a big deal. What we're going to do, if I can find my where I threw my capo, which is probably laying around here somewhere, because I've had a lot of tools out for this darn thing. Where did I put my capo? Where? Oh, there it is. I found it. So basically what we're going to do now is we're going to, again, put this capo right across this first fret here. Right on top of it. Okay? Make sure it's right on top. When I say right on top, what I'm trying to tell you is you don't want this capo on this side of the fret, so it's pushing down and it's making these strings go down lower than what they really are. You want it sitting right on top of here, just on the edge like that. And because the goal is to get the true measurement, the distance between the top of that fret and the bottom of that string. That's the goal here. So go to my my feeler gauges, of course, and the spec I always look for is about 8/1000ths of an inch, because I've done this many times and that seems to be about in the ballpark. So there's 8/1000ths right there. So let's see. So you see that? So right now, underneath that low E string, this 8/1000ths of it slides right in there. A little bit, it's probably 9/1000ths, but it's close. Okay? And if I carry it across to the next one, it's also, the next one slides under too. So let's go to this side. These are the ones we worked on. 8/1000ths of an inch. So you can see right now, that feeler gauge goes underneath there. There is absolutely, I'm not pushing the string up. I'm not forcing it in, it slides in there. Yet when I tap the top of that string, that's exactly, there's no bounce going on. So I know I got that height right there at 8/1000ths, and I'm going to go to the next one. Now I have a little bit of bounce here. I can see it. You can hear it too when you tap. Hear that? This one you don't. This one, hear what I'm talking about? So this string here is still a little on the high side, but boy, not much. Not much. So I'm going to touch it ever so little here. This is where you got to be very careful when you get this close, because if I take a little bit too much off of here, I'm pulling the nut off, knocking it out again, I'm putting baking soda and crazy glue in here and doing this thing again. So at this point, I'm being very careful just to touch it, just like that. Ever so slightly, guys, ever so slightly. Get her up to get some tension on it. And let's try it again. Feeler gauge, back she goes. Get the feeler gauge on here again. So now I've got it. So to make a long story short, what I have right now, just so everybody understands the mechanics of what's going on here, I've got 8 1/1000ths of an inch clearance on the first fret, between the top of the first fret and the bottom of every string. That's basically what I've got accomplished here. That way, you know, we should not run into a, oh boy, that feels nice now. That really feels really nice, really nice. So, and it looks good too. The one thing I want to stress with the guitar, and a lot of people don't realize this, a lot of times you're going to get a guitar, even a good guitar, whether it be a Gibson acoustic, a Martin acoustic, or a Taylor acoustic. And you're going to get that thing in, and every once in a while you're going to have a problem with the playability. I don't care how good the guitar is, how much you paid for it. It takes one problem with this nut when it was installed in the factory to affect the playability of this guitar. And you know, generally speaking, in most cases, they have a tendency of having these a little on the high side. And this is a good thing, I guess, really, when you look at it, because a little on the high side, you're definitely going to help to avoid any fret buzz. And if it is a little on the high side, it gives a technician, like a guitar tech like myself, it gives me a little bit of room to work with. I'm not in a situation where, you know, if I want, you know, I'm looking at, oh, they're all a little high. Then it's very simple for me as a tech to go in and do what I just done and adjust this so it's right on the money. But if they're cut too low, in this case, this one was on this string, then you're into the work we just did here. Like take all the strings off, try to get the nut out, try to fix it, put it all back on, glue it back in, do all the settings again on every nut to make sure it's accurate and correct. So at that point, what have I got left to do on this guitar? Well, about the only thing left that I should have to worry about is potentially the neck relief on this guitar. But before I can set the neck relief, I have to get this tuned up to pitch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this video on pause here, and I'm going to go find my tuner and I'm going to tune her up, and then we'll be back. Hang on. Well, hopefully you can see this okay. I got my tuner. I got this guitar tuned up to pitch. So the next little effort now is to set the neck relief if it needs to be set. So I basically apply my capo on the first fret, right on top of it, making sure it's not on this side of the fret holding the strings down. You want to make sure when you do this relief, you either have the guitar in the playing position, or if you're not and it's down like this, you want to make sure that it's well supported underneath the whole this part of the neck, so that the weight of the guitar isn't going to affect, you know, the relief setting. And get out your handy dandy feeler gauge. I got this at 10 1/1000ths of an inch, and I'm going to go down here. Basically, what I'm looking at is just I usually take it right down here to the neck position, hold it down, and I look at how much distance have I got from the fret, top of the fret, to the bottom of the string. And I go in there, and it's high. It's a little on the high side, so I know that right off the bat. Just check it right here, and she's high. So what we're going to do, take the guitar, put it down like this. I'm going to look for my Martin. Have a special tool that you know, the Allen key is a special one with a big long end on it, so that what you can do, I'll try to demonstrate that. I'll get this up into the cam view if I can. Hopefully you can see that. We're going to take this off, and this the truss rod nut on the Martin is way back up in here, so you have to go in quite a ways So what we're going to do, and the whole slot is right in here. So we're going to get into this area. Sometimes it's hard to find exactly where that notch is. Just like now. You're in the hole, but I got to hit the actual slot. It's the little nut in there. Get this thing to go in it, and it's a pain. There, no, I still didn't get it. So she's a pain to get the. See what we got here. No. I don't know why on Martin guitars they got to do this. Put it in that far, where you're always struggling to find where that nut position is to get this in there. See how difficult that becomes sometimes to get that to go in? She goes everywhere, but there it goes. No, still not. Haven't got her yet, guys. She just ain't gonna go in, is she? She's gonna be a pain. No, don't want to go in. The trials and tribulations on some guitars. That's why a lot of manufacturers will put that stinking adjustment nut up here on the headstock. So it's very, very easy to open up a little plate and get into it. But on the Martin, no. She's not gonna go. Still not gonna go. Isn't that something, eh? Well, no. The frustrations of guitar work, guys. And you know what? I hate to say it. I find the Martins the worst to work on. For just reasons like this. Like holy cow, come on. Surely to God, you don't have to put that friggin' nut 4.5 inches up inside this headstock here, into the up from the hole, and a guy gonna fiddle around for 5 minutes trying to get a hex wrench into a nut. Like, just give me a break. But no, she ain't gonna go in. So with my frustration involved, I'm gonna stop this cam. I'm gonna go get a coffee because I'm getting ticked at this Martin. So hold on. Well, I'm finally back. I took a break, had a coffee, came back to this silly thing. Took me another, I don't know, 2 or 3, 4 minutes to find that bloody nut back up in there to get this this Allen key all the way up to about here to hit that little nut up there to get this truss rod adjusted. So after fiddle-diddling for another 5 minutes, I finally found it, got it in there. Just needed basically just a quarter turn. So now I'm going to hold it down here. And I got my 10/1000 gauge, and if I put her in there, it just goes underneath perfectly without. Right here is halfway, and don't the string doesn't touch the string, just right where I want it. And I'll do the same with the high E, I guess. See what we got here, and. Whoop, I touch it. This thing is right in the road. What an awkward spot trying to do this on a camera. Can't get it. No way I can show you because the angle is so bad as I try to hold this guitar over the workbench. There's absolutely no way I can hit that with a feeler gauge. So I'm going to take the camera down, put it on the side view, and try to show you from the side looking the other way. Can't do it from this angle, that's for sure. Let's see if we can show you from this angle. So, I'm going to get this guitar put up onto my shoulder here, and of course the strap now is all twisted around the wrong way. I've never had so much trouble in my life on a simple little job this morning of doing this nut as this bloody thing to this morning here. So now we got it up in playing position. Got my capo on. I better put my glasses on because I'm half blind. I'm just kidding. And get my feeler gauge. Hold it down. Perfect. 10/1000ths. Now I can, at least this way, I can see what I'm doing here. And look at that. The little pin fall out of my feeler gauge. All the feeler gauges fall in the floor, and all I got left is the 10/1000ths of an inch feeler gauge. So, like I say, it sounds like a bad luck day. I better not touch any more guitars today. So, make a long story short, 10/1000ths of an inch on this guy too. Just goes underneath. Perfect. So, see if we got any fret buzz now. Of course, it's out of tune. Again. Yeah, I think this is no more guitar work today, guys. This has been an absolute struggle right from day one on this thing. Shows you when something starts to go wrong. It starts and it never stops. No more buzz on the first string. Go for the second string. No choke out either. Little buzz maybe right up here. If I can ever play up this high. But I'm good all the way up past the high E, that's for sure. I think she's okay. Feels good to play. So this project is done. This one sure had a lot of grief with it though. And you know, there's an example of a job where a customer walk in with a guitar and all he's got is one string off a little bit, and you figure, oh, you know, 45 minutes of shop time to resolve a problem like this. And this bloody thing, to fix this, I've got over 2 hours of time right now on this bloody guy to get this thing fixed so it's now where it should be. And I still got all my feeler gauges laying on the floor, all 35 of them to pick up and put back together again. So anyway, what can I tell you guys? It's been a fun morning. Stay tuned, I got some more videos coming up. I hope they go a little better than this one. Stay tuned, over and out. Bye-bye now.